Yesterday, Arturo wanted to tell his mom about the information he and Carmen had figured out about Wilfredo, but she was busy, so he started reading a letter from his beloved late abuelo. Let's keep reading the letter on page 87, almost at the bottom of the page, where it's bold and it's also italicized in that slanty writing. So perhaps you're reading this as a young man and wondering what on earth your abuelo is doing, leaving you a box full of letters and music and poetry. Yep, that was pretty much true, abuelo. Perhaps you're thinking your abuelo was a bit loquito, leaving you so much paper to sift through and ponder. Well, rather than hearing stories about me from your parents or even your abuela, I wanted to let you discover for yourself who your abuelo was. So this box contains every detail of my journey, every challenge, failure, triumph, and success. Let us begin with the first thing. Find the letter in the box marked El amor y la fe. Love and faith? That was the phrase Abuela had said the other day. Why did Abuelo want me to start there? I unfastened the bundle of letters, carefully looking for it. El amor y la fe, love and faith. I unfolded the letter. It was also written in English and Spanish. How long did it take him to write all these? The great Cuban poet and patriot Jose Marti wrote and translated many works of poetry and essays in both English and Spanish. Did you know that a poem by Jose Marti inspired a very famous song called Guantanamera, and that a young man composed a version of it that became a worldwide hit? It is the most famous song in all of Cuba, probably one of the most famous songs in the world. So you see, a young person has the power to do many great things. It's about belief, and most important, it is about love, I said out loud. I didn't even have to look at the page to know what he was going to write. Love. Love is two spirits meeting, joining together, holding each other, helping raise each other from the earth. It is born in the journey of looking for each other, fed by the need to be together. It is incapable of ever breaking apart. Love is not a tempestuous sea. It is a calm river. It is not a bonfire, but a quiet ember. It is not an abrupt end. It is peace. Huh? That is what Jose Marti wrote about love. Don't worry if you don't understand it now. Keep it in your box and go back to those words from time to time. They will begin to make sense as you continue to read and reread them. It took me years to understand the full depth of Marti's words, but eventually this is what I learned. I learned that no matter what I physically lost on that journey between countries, my history never changed, because your abuela was with me. As were your mother, aunt, and uncle. I had you and your cousins close to my heart. I had my sister, the abuela Josefina, and her children with me. We had first cousins and second cousins and even third cousins with us. One by one, our family came together in this new land. We fight, we Zamoras. We fight for what we believe in. We fight for family. We fight to preserve our sense of home. We fight to be just and fair. And above all, we fight for love. No form of exile or malady can defeat us. It is invincible. Malady is like a disease or an illness. The rest of these letters have dates on them. They tell my history in order. Read them and learn from the past. And remember to be adventurous, my Arturo. Be alive, be in love, find your voice, find your story. And remember, sometimes life's answers are hidden in poetry. Tu abuelo, Arturo Miguel Zamora. I couldn't resist opening another letter. The one marked 1972 told the story of Abuelo in Cuba working as a taxi driver. He drove around the famous Malecon, a huge seawall along the district in Havana called Vedado, taking tourists from Europe and Canada to Havana's major sites, the museum, the palace, through the cobbled stone streets leading to the University of Havana, and all around to the famous nightclubs like the Tropicana. He wrote that no matter how hot the sun got, the sound of the ocean spraying against the walls of El Malecon was enough to keep you cool. Then one day, he wrote, he noticed a young woman carrying several bags of laundry on a quiet street just around the corner from El Malecon. He stopped the cab and asked if she needed a ride. At first, the young woman didn't want to accept the ride, so Abuelo parked his taxi and offered to carry the laundry wherever she needed to go. But she said she didn't need help. She kept telling me to go away. Soon I retreated to my taxi and drove next to her as she walked. She stopped, turned to me, and said if I didn't leave her alone, she was going to chase me with a machete. She was the toughest, most beautiful woman I had ever met. I apologized and left her alone. On one fateful occasion, while I drove through the same neighborhood, a vicious rainstorm swept through the streets, and your abuela got caught in the middle of it. Sometimes storms come out of nowhere in Cuba. It is such as life on the island. I saw her huddled under the awning of a building that was closed. The rain whipped sideways with every gust of wind. She was getting soaked, and so were her freshly laundered clothes. I stopped the car and got out. I told her she could stay in my taxi with her laundry, and I would wait outside until the rain stopped. She finally accepted. I gave her the keys to my taxi, and she waited inside while the storm subsided. This is how I first met and fell in love with your abuela. Oh. Without thinking, I put the letter down and looked at my computer screen. I logged into Twitter and typed Carmen Sanchez in the search box. A picture of a heart drawn in the sand came up next to the handle, @Carsan2121. I checked and saw that @Carsan2121 was from Madrid and loved the beach, crime fiction, and poetry. It had to be Carmen, so I sent her a direct message. @Artzam3. Hey, is that you, Carmen? It's me, Arturo. Every second that she didn't respond felt like an hour. Still nothing. It was a dumb idea to send her a DM. What if it wasn't her? I went to close the screen when a message popped up. @Carsan2121. Hi, Arturo. I felt instantly relieved it wasn't some weird stranger. @Artsam3. Hey, so what's up? @Carsan2121. Hey, nothing. Look, sorry about earlier. @Artsam3. It's fine. @Carsan2121. Hey, so I did some digging about Wilfredo Pipo. I think I found something. @Artsam3. Question mark? @Carsan2121. Want to meet after your shift at the restaurant? @Artsam3. K. @Carsan2121. K. My dad's home now. I have to go. Bye. See ya. XOXO. Carmen signed off, but I continued to stare at my computer screen. Those X's and O's didn't mean anything, did they? I looked at Abuela's box and thought about the first time he'd met Abuela. He'd not given up. That was what I was going to do. I was going to show Carmen I wouldn't give up. I was going to save the restaurant. Chapter 11. By the way, X's and O's mean hugs and kisses. Okay. Chapter 11. Adding mucho más. After my dishwashing shift the next day, I waited patiently for Carmen in the dining room at La Cocina. I sat at one of the empty tables in the back and watched as guests finished their lunches and went about their days. From where I was sitting, I could hear a few different conversations. They were all talking about the exciting new building. Can you believe the gym they're going to have? Said Ms. Prado, a lady who wore too much makeup and always seemed to be wearing workout clothes. It's going to be amazing, her friend said. I always thought these ladies were really funny, and I liked that they came to the restaurant to eat after exercising, but now I found myself getting annoyed at how loud they spoke. Two guys who I knew worked at the bank on the corner leaned over their table to join the conversation. Oi, pero did you see there's going to be a pool on the roof and one on the second floor? How sick is that? Man, I'm totally buying an apartment there. For sure. It's a dope investment opportunity. I was totally shocked when I overheard Annabelle and George talking. Maybe instead of buying a house, we look into a place in the new building. What? I accidentally blurted out. Annabelle and George turned around, but I put a menu up so they couldn't see me. I couldn't believe people were eating at La Cocina, enjoying our food, and talking about how cool People Place was going to be. Didn't they realize that if there were a People Place, there would be no La Cocina? Maybe they didn't notice La Cocina was missing from People's plans. The door opened and Carmen walked in with Abuela, which I didn't expect. The chatter stopped. It was like all 40-plus people in the restaurant quit talking at the same time. That didn't stop Abuela from being Abuela. She took Carmen by the hand and greeted several tables by introducing Carmen. Abuela stroked Carmen's hair as she explained who she was, and Carmen politely accepted the compliments that guests gave her. I felt a little rush of heat in my cheeks when I saw Carmen smiling, but it was probably because I was still hot from being in the kitchen for 5 hours. Aunt Tootie followed Abuela nervously like a chicken pecking around for seeds. She kept telling her, "Mami, siéntese," but Abuela didn't want to sit down. Greeting guests was what Abuela loved most, besides cooking and family. Carmen scanned the restaurant and saw me sitting at the corner table. As she walked toward me, she smiled, and her shiny, colorful braces lit up the room. Her smile was almost too bright, so I looked down at my tabletop and started inspecting the silverware for any spots or stains. "So," she said, "good shift?" "It was fine," I said. "I wish Martine didn't wear Miro Bro. It's nasty. It's nasty, smelling that deodorant mixed with food and dirty plates for 5 hours." "I can imagine." So like I said, I did a little more digging, and look what I found. Carmen pulled up something on her phone and handed it to me. It was an article from a local paper in northern Florida talking about a word I had never heard before: gentrification. "What does that word mean?" I asked Carmen. "It's when wealthy people come into a neighborhood to redevelop it to increase its value. It usually pushes out people and businesses that have been around for a long time." "Do you think that's what Wilfredo is doing?" "It's what he's been doing in different towns," she said. "Scroll down. See here?" Apparently, Wilfredo Pipo had built other luxury high-rises in coastal towns around the country. They all looked exactly the same as the one he proposed in Canal Grove. Whoa! He's got like 10 other buildings. "Yeah, and that's not the worst part. Here, check this out," she said, pointing. I looked at a page. "Request for proposals for the purchase and development of property owned by the city." It was the same kind of proposal my mom had put in for the expansion, but this was a new one. It was a request for the purchase of the land right next to the parking lot, the land that La Cocina was on. I kept reading, and my mouth went completely dry. Wilfredo Pipo's name was on the proposal to lease the property. "How can he do this?" Carmen yelled so loud she startled Mr. Michaels, the guy who owned Books and More Books. He nearly spilled his ceviche all over himself. Pardon," Carmen said, offering him a napkin. That must be what my mom was talking about on the phone with Mop's dad. "But it needs to be approved. The city needs to say yes." "Yeah," I said, and realized I hadn't seen Commissioner Garcia at La Cocina for lunch with his staff. "I don't know. Something doesn't feel right." Abuela slowly shuffled to our table, carrying 2 large glasses filled to the rim with creamy orange smoothies. Dos batidos de mango, she said as she handed us the glasses garnished with little mango wedges. Gracias, abuela, I said. I shifted uncomfortably, like I was literally sitting on top of all the secrets I was keeping from abuela. She smiled and motioned for me to drink my patito, but I just couldn't do it. I couldn't hold everything in anymore. What happened next, I'm not proud of. It was like popping the lid on a pressure cooker before the whistle signaled it was time to open it. Carmen chimed in excitedly in Spanish every time I stopped to take a breath. Uh-oh. It sounds like he's spilling Pipo's plans to Abuela. Is that a good idea? All right, we'll find out later.